I USA efter den 11 september 2001, i det USA som anfallit Irak, finns en starkare misstro mot de etablerade nyhetsmedierna än vad många kanske tror. Kan man verkligen lita på dem? Vilken världsbild sprider de? Går de maktens ärenden? Och vad undanhåller de?
I feel really strongly that the voice that the mainstream is speaking in is so watered down and so kind of middle of the road and so meaningless ultimately. And there's so many vibrant voices happening outside of the mainstream radar.
De stora massmedierna är verkligen big business. Och i USA är de dominerande medieföretagen intimt sammanvävda. Regeringen håller på att ta bort de sista återstående reglerna mot monopolbildningar. Journalistiken blir i allt högre grad underkastad annonsörernas och underhållningens värderingar. Vad gör man då om man inte är nöjd med de vanliga tidningarna och tv-kanalerna? Vi ska ut på en amerikansk resa till några av alternativen. För i USA är det just nu ovanligt många som startar sina egna medier. Ja, man kan faktiskt tala om en ny medierörelse.
It's important to have magazines like Punk Planet on the same newsstands as a Rolling Stone or a Spin or a Time or a Newsweek or any of the kind of crappy corporate fluff that masquerades as journalism. Mediemagasinet i Minneapolis är en speciell tidskrift. Den finkammar de oberoende medierna i USA och återpublicerar sånt som redaktionen tycker är spännande, ofta samlat i olika teman. Atni håller också koll på internet och tipsar varje dag om läsvärda artiklar på nätet.
We are seeing some really devastating media consolidation right now. Fewer and fewer people own more and more of what's on TV, what's on the radio, what's in book publishing, and what's in magazines and newspapers. It's a perilous situation. The good news is that there are more and more small-scale publications, whether they're zines, whether they're websites, whether they're small magazines and things like that. So there is a chorus of voices that offers a different view. But unfortunately, that hasn't permeated television much. It's not made as much of a mark on radio as we'd like it to make. And so I think an awful lot of people don't have access to this independent media. And that's one of our goals here at Etni, is to sort of spread the word, let people know that there's these wonderful, exciting publications out there that they can dig up for themselves and get a real different view about what's happening in the world. A lot of people are, desperately looking for ways to kind of get the word out that's kind of beyond the mainstream media. And so I think there is kind of a bit of a media uprising happening right now.
Men det är förstås inte alla amerikaner som köper små tidskrifter eller följer debatter på nätet.
Do you trust the news media?
Oh yeah, definitely. We have to support everything they're doing. They're doing a good job. If it wasn't for them out there with all their hard work, we wouldn't know anything, would we? It's the people that get out there and find the information and the news, and that's how we get it.
Do you trust the media, the news media?
I don't think so. Nah. I rather go with my own instincts.
In this town, for instance, if you look at a feature story, they will never run feature stories on minorities. They will never, we live in North Minneapolis here, they will never run a feature story about our neighborhood. They will only run feature stories about suburban, rich neighborhoods.
You watch a lot of TV news?
We do.
Do you find them trustworthy?
Yeah.
Do you believe everything they say?
Yes, because they won't put it on TV if it wasn't.
Andra amerikaner tror mindre på tv-nyheterna. Som de som startar egna tidningar, piratradio, nyhetsbrev på nätet eller skapar internationella nätverk för lokala medieaktivister som Indiemedia som finns både i Sverige och i amerikanska mellanvästern.
Twin Cities Independent Media Center, it's a local node on the global network of websites and other organizations that basically I'm just an individual here to cover it, and that's what Indie Media is. As many people as want to cover it can just cover it, and they can instantly put their stuff on the website without any initial review.
Some people would say that Indie Media consists of amateurs. It's not really professional journalism.
Oh yeah, and we pretty much embrace that. We say horizontal playing field. We kind of relate it to the marketplace of ideas rather than having a gilded expert who's going to make everything he says the truth and everybody just listens to that and takes his word for it. You have as many voices speaking as possible, and then the consumer of that media, reader, whatever, somebody surfing the website, can make decisions for themselves based on their own intellect what they think the truth is.
You would never leave if I could show you.
Good morning and welcome to Radio K News Sunday. It's currently -2
Radio K is a student-run radio station. We're on the AM dial at 770 AM here in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Radio K skiljer sig från flertalet stationer genom att sända mycket utrikesnyheter och spela musik som inte ligger på topplistorna. Men om man nu inte kan lita på allt som står i dagstidningen eller sägs i tv-nyheterna, vilken trovärdighet har då de här små medierna som kallar sig oberoende, independent?
I am cynical about, the possibility of absolute objectivity in any experience, let alone the journalistic experience. But it doesn't mean that I'll swing to the extreme and say everything goes, let subjectivity rule, let us all be whatever we want, be liberals. I do have this kind of reverence or belief in journalistic integrity. And I know that's not true of all indie media. Like a number of anarchist publications will say, yes, this is a propaganda war. And it's purely based on propaganda, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I was told, to accept the majority opinion basically most of my life, and to follow the system, follow my parents' wishes, etc., that sort of dogma. And
journalism is a way of breaking out of that mold?
Breaking out of it, taking responsibility for my own ideas, discovering my own ideas, and getting more in touch with the community at large, being more engaged in the civic experience rather than just being a taxpayer.
Craig Cox sammanfattar och sprider varje vecka lokala nyheter till ett 1000-tal personer via sin nättidning The Minneapolis Observer. Detta måste vara den sanna barfota-journalistiken. En medborgare som gör lokal journalistik för att han tycker att den stora morgontidningen i stan är så dålig.
These are all examples of local newspapers that most people in the Twin Cities have never heard of. Many of them are from the minority community. One Nation News is an example. This is the Spokesman Recorder is a long-time black community newspaper. And these are voices that do not show up in the mainstream media. You have more opportunities now than ever before in history to find information, to understand what's going on, to satisfy your curiosity. Go online, read your city council minutes, go down to the local newsstand, pick up stuff that people are writing that's not, commercially viable. You can do that. It's all out there. You just have to make the effort to become an intelligent consumer of media. If you can create an avenue, a way to get your ideas out to some segment of the population, you're not only making our democracy stronger, but you're empowering yourself. And as more people see what you're doing, they can be empowered. And you can create an incredible revolution. And I'm very hopeful. I think that this thing is only going to get bigger.
I believe that TV stations have a certain slant on things, and whatever TV station you're listening to possibly could go one way or the other. However, I do trust 24-hour news stations more than the regular networks, the United States networks.
I don't go by everything on TV. I don't, you know.
Why not?
Because I like to get out, enjoy it, and see it for myself.
My dad always says they have a lot of ink and they have a lot of paper and they don't have any blank spaces. It's filled up and it's not an accident. If they don't have anything, they'll make something up, I think. The celebrity news, especially in America, I wouldn't want to be famous here. It's the worst. I don't believe their goal is to get out the truth or to inform. For the newspapers and for the television media especially, their idea is to get ratings.
I am sometimes disappointed in it. I think that we have a very subjective view, and I think it's very difficult to find objective news in the United States.
And I noticed that you have at least one subscriber in Malmö, in Sweden.
We do. I think we have more than one Swedish subscriber in general, but today there's actually one going to Sweden. Not even planned that way. A happy accident.
How many readers do you have?
We have, we're selling about 14,000 issues.
Punk Planet har utsetts till årets bästa amerikanska oberoende magasin med social och kulturell inriktning.
I want to talk about how people are living their lives. You know, I want to give examples of people that are doing amazing work on nothing. Whether that's bands, they're amazing bands that are doing that, and I want them in the magazine. But they're also authors and filmmakers and thinkers, you know, political theorists or other journalists and things like that. I want them all in there.
Where do you turn to for your daily information?
Well, unfortunately, you can't really turn to many mainstream papers in the U.S. I mean, probably the source of news that I turn to the most on a day-to-day basis is The Guardian out of England. Mainstream daily press in the U.S. is horrible. It's absolutely god-awful. And it only becomes more apparent how bad it is in times like now, when you really need the press to be telling you what's going on. And they're just not. Most mainstream media is looking at, is this going to upset my advertising base? You know, is this story going to bum people out enough that they're going to turn off the TV? And if they turn off the TV, then they don't get, if they turn off the TV, then they're not going to see that ad. And if they don't see that ad, then we're not going to get that advertiser back. And so we're not going to run that story. Now, all of a sudden, one company owns 1,200 radio stations.
Clear channel.
Yeah, you know, which means that's 1,200 stations that are all being fed from the same cup. That's not diversity, and that's not ultimately serving the public good. And so, yeah, the mainstream media has always left stuff to be desired, you know, but as newspaper companies buy other newspapers, as you know, media giants like AOL Time Warner or Rupert Murdoch and Fox News Corp and things like that buy up multiple television stations, multiple radio stations, multiple newspapers and magazines, it becomes harder and harder and harder for voices to come through. And so I think it's vital nowadays that independent voices continue to speak.
Vi är på väg hem till Mary Shepard, 84 år gammal och sedan länge engagerad i fredsrörelsen. Hon är också en av de amerikaner som tycker att de stora nyhetsmedierna blivit allt för beroende av annonsörerna och regeringen. Och därför ordnar Mary Shepard workshops där folk samlas och diskuterar nyhetsvärdering och alternativa informationskällor.
People say, why are you so agitated? And I can only say, why isn't everybody else? Why just me? When the newspaper says something on the front page that's absolutely erroneous, I mean, we should be phoning, as well as of course, our representatives. But it's coming. It's a lot better than it was, but I see people out here who read the front page and they believe it. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and wonder, what can I do that I haven't thought of?
Where do you get your information?
In These Times is a very good one. And extra fairness and accuracy in reporting. And then there's some very good regional things. This is awfully good about the link. This is very, very small circulation, but this is about Israel-Palestine, and there's a lot about the Jewish peace movement that we would never get except in something like this. I know in one of my workshops somebody said, well, why should I believe what you tell me? And I said, there's only one way to do it, and that is you follow some of these publications or follow all the publications and see which ones have been right, and that's what I've done. And I think I could save you that work, but if you don't believe me, I like your skepticism. I am really happy. I wish more people were skeptical. But I can't shake it.
Vad ska man egentligen ha tidningar till? Om man frågar de som gör Silicon Valley Debug i San Jose i Kalifornien så svarar de till att organisera ungdomar i utkanten av arbetsmarknaden och få dem att kämpa för sina rättigheter. Debug är en tidning på papper och på nätet, men också en uppsökande verksamhet. Bland annat skickar de ut folk till skolorna för att hålla i diskussioner om aktuella ämnen.
But we're going to talk about the different, like sort of some of the differences within the graffiti world that there is, like, you know, the negative aspects of graffiti and the positive. A lot of other debuggers right now are out at like YMCA or other schools during the week doing the same kind of work. Me and Sundown just happened to do this one because of they wanted something about graffiti. So it was cool because it's an excuse for us to be having a conversation with these youth, you know, that don't ordinarily get to speak much in class. You know, so.
And with that conversation and just having them to have that opportunity to speak is really important, because now we're trying to get in there and help them gain self-respect and self-esteem for themselves and let them know that their story is really important.
Debug started actually by a group of young workers that were doing temporary work on the low-wage end of Silicon Valley who came together very casually at first. We used to meet at a cafe, talk about what work was like, you know, what our gripes were, what our complaints were, you know, what we'd really say to the boss if we were sitting across from the table from him. What we found was that writing about it was a transformative experience. First of all, because it was the first time that young workers' experiences were visible at all in the media. Because so much of the newspapers, the television shows at night, the news shows on the radio and television never captured our experiences. People are reacting to a very corporate-dominated media. Not necessarily in a political sense, but more in a cultural sense, where it's just boring now to hear the same sound bite. It's boring to hear the same music. And it's denied people's creativity.
Från Punk Planet i Chicago via Craig Cox och Mary Shepard i Minnesota till Silicon Valley Debug i Kalifornien är budskapet alltså: om du är missnöjd med medieutbudet, starta din egen tidning, gör dina egna inspelningar, demokratisera medierna. Och kanske är det så att ägarkoncentrationen och likriktningen nu har nått så långt att något måste explodera, som en ny medierörelse.
It is, in some ways, the closest thing we have to a social movement in this country right now is media creation. And what it's done is, for one thing, it's reinforced the idea that I think has been lost here, that everyday people have the capacity to think and to produce ideas. Our school system has not reinforced that. The workplace has not reinforced that. And it's made people in a passive position where all they are is receptors of media. What this is about, what Debug is about, what zines and people creating their websites and all these other things, creating their own music, graffiti on the walls, is about people having an active voice. And I think that'll make profound changes in how young people exist in this country.